What's up, everybody? This was Sam. We're live with Jay, number 116. Hopefully, we get more people joining in. Today's Tuesday. Today's my day off. Hanging out at the house. You know what I mean? I had a really good day off. You know what I mean? I needed a break. I was really busy this whole weekend. So it's always good to get a little break. But a lot, happened over the weekend. A lot of crazy stuff. Everyone knows about everything going on in LA right now. And that's most of what we're going to talk about in today's live. About what's going on, about politics, about, you know, a lot of different things, you know what I mean? And hopefully we get more people on here. I'm surprised there's not more people on. But yeah, I'm doing my live with Jay. What's up, Chris Grima? Hopefully we get more folks in here. But yeah, it should be a good live, because I got some stuff I want to educate you guys about. You know what I mean? But what's up, Julio? No, I'm not having a panel tonight. Tonight is strictly about politics. Not just politics, but it'll be a big topic, one of the topics. So I might as well get started with it now. So as people trickle in, they could follow the conversation. So as many of you know, in the last few days, this last weekend, there's been protests and supposedly rioting going on in Los Angeles, and a lot of it is because of the raids or whatever that the immigration or ICE has been doing in Los Angeles, and it triggered a response, and that response has been pretty powerful. Um, I mean, who's really surprised though? You're gonna do ICE raids in the most Latino city on the West Coast. Period. I mean, whether you like LA or don't, you gotta admit that is the heart and center of the Latino community in the West Coast. And you go do raids there, and what you think, especially given the history of Los Angeles, the history of riots and protests and movements that happen there, you think people are just gonna take it up the what and let immigration or ICE come into the barrios and punk people and people aren't gonna push back? You don't know California very well. At least Trump and his people. You know what I mean? And yeah, it triggered a response, and ICE agents were literally chased out of Compton and Paramount, California, and there were like big shutdowns and protests going on all over Los Angeles, and you know, I'm all for protesting. I have no issue with what happened. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's just people spoke up, and I know there's a lot of different out views about what's going on right now in LA. Some people agree, some people disagree. I agree with some things, I disagree with others myself. Um, and we'll talk about that. But yeah, but basically, they went into some of the most ruthless hoods in the United States, like Compton, and they fucked around and found out. You know what I mean? And if they try to come up here with that too to the Bay, they're probably not going to get a very warm welcome in here either, especially if they go to cities like Oakland or Richmond or even San Francisco. You know what I mean? I already know the people are going to organize if they try to come up here with the same thing, which they probably will, I'm sure. You know what I mean? But you know, I think Rasa needs to wake up to what's going on, and we need to be united. We can't be divided, man. Unfortunately, in California, we're so divided over gangs and politics and stupidity. You know what I mean? That we can't unite and come together as one thing. You know, and in LA, I'm pretty sure. Hopefully, a lot of like gangs and different groups put their problems to the side and protested against the people trying to do harm to the hoods. Now, I get that ICE has a job to do. ICE's point of existing is to regulate immigration, right? Before it was ICE. Actually, ICE was created. Uh, but anyway, ICE was created by the George Bush administration. You know what I mean? As part of what's up, shortcuts. As part of the war on terror, and we're going to talk about that too. How all this plays a part. Now, um, ICE was created by the George Bush administration under the Department of Homeland Security, which was also created by the George Bush administration. It's all created to combat terror at the time, right? Remember, right after 9/11, before that, immigration was called INS, Immigration Naturalization Services. So in the old days, it was INS. Um, but yeah, now they're called ICE. I forget what the hell it means. Immigration, some customs enforcement. I guess it means immigration customs enforcement. Um, and yeah, I get ICE's job is to crack down on immigration. But the problem with what's going on right now is that you know that they're going after the wrong people a lot of times. They're doing these ridiculous things like going to schools. Um, um, they're going to schools, churches, to businesses, to places. Like places. Why would you go to a church or a school? You know what I mean? They're just picking up moms and grandmas, parents picking up their kids from work, people that are just working, trying to survive. You know what I mean? Now, I think most of us can agree if ICE was picking up quote unquote criminals or gang members or rapists or dumbasses, we probably are not going to protest out there for them. I know I'm not. You know what I mean? We're probably not going to cry a river for them either. You know what I mean? um, um, and we're not going to cry for them. We're not going to defend. I mean, I'm not going to defend someone who's out there doing stupid shit. Like my mom used to say, si por pendejo te metes en problema, pues por pendejo. You know what I mean? So if you're going to be a pendejo and your status here is illegal, then you deserve to get deported. You know what I mean? That's straight up. If you're gonna gangbang or be a pendejo on the streets or sell dope or do dumb shit, then those are the consequences. And you deserve it. You know what I mean? Because you should know better. But I'm not talking about them people. And none of us give a fuck about them people, to be honest with you. I'm talking about the hardworking people, the people who are here trying to make a better life, people who've been here for a long time, who've opened up businesses, who are generating money, who are living the so-called American dream. You know what I mean? Those are the people that we're defending. Those are the people that there's protests right now in the Mission District, in San Francisco, in Oakland. There was an ICE protest today in Oakland too. Um, those are the people that we worry about. The people, because those are like our parents, our tios, our cousins, our family members. You know what I mean? And we can't let the government. We cannot let the government feel that they can come into our barrios and terrorize us, and we're just gonna be. Remember what I used to do back in the days? Sí, señor. See, senor, see, what can I do for you, sir? Nah, we can't be that, bro. I'm sorry. We cannot be that. I've said that before, bro. You know what I mean? People need to stand up, and people need to know their rights as well. You know what I mean? This is one thing that a lot of us don't know, man. You know what I mean? And Trump is, violating a lot of things right now. You know what I mean? I'm gonna educate you on some of those things. Like right now, Trump is clearly violating what's called habeas corpus. And those of you, if you don't know what that is, and these are funny names, but habeas corpus means your right to due process. You know what I mean? Which is what prevents us from being a cruel and unusual punishment type country. And he's deporting people without even getting their due process. You know what I mean? A lot of times they're not even illegal immigrants. He's deporting people with green cards, people who are working to get their papers, people who pretty much have legal status. I mean, what the fuck is going on here? I could understand it if people are are well, you know what? People have a right to burn the American flag. Unfortunately, it is free speech in the First Amendment. I may not agree with it, but you have a right to burn an American flag, and you have a right to carry any flag you want. You could carry the the gay flag. You could carry the Confederate flag, the Nazi flag. You have a right because you have freedom of speech. But anyway, that's beyond. So habeas corpus is basically what um, the right to have due process. And I'm just saying, what the fuck is going on? Supposedly, we were going to deport the criminals, but unfortunately, even people that are working to get their papers are getting deported. How is that justified? People who are actually in the process. Don't white people always say that? Oh, go do it the legal way, do the process. You know what I mean? And they're deporting people who are doing it the legal way in the process. So it's like, what's going on here? What is this all really all about? You know what I mean? It's confusing me because I don't get it. But a lot of people are their habeas corpus, their right to due process is being violated right now, which is unconstitutional. You guys, a lot of you right wingers claim you love the Constitution so much, but yet you guys agree with an authoritarian president for the sake of some kind of security, which is stupid. You know, Ben Franklin once said, if you're willing to give up your freedoms for a little false sense of security, then you deserve no freedom. And that's how I feel about a lot of these pendejos out here, like these simps for Trump and all this. And and another thing that's being pretty much violated, it's been violated by Bush and by Trump. And this is going to have a funny name, but it's called Posse Comitatus. Has anybody out there ever heard of the Posse Comitatus Act? And I've learned about this stuff over the years. So the Posse Comitatus Act is an act that was created in the 1800s that limits or prevents military from carrying out police actions. You know what I mean? And the reason it's called the Posse Comitatus Act because at the time there wasn't really a regulated police force. It was posses, deputized posses that will fight crime. So it basically said that a deputized posse or a militia that was deputized under the law were the ones to fight crime, not the military. Again, preventing cruel and unusual punishment. Again, Trump is definitely violating the Posse Comitatus Act right now because he nationalized the National Guard because the National Guard is sent by the governor, not the president. The governor under states' rights, which is something the United States is we make a big deal about because we have states. Each state has their own states' rights. And Newsom said he wasn't going to send out the National Guard. So Trump overrode that and federalized the National Guard and sent them anyway. So that's a violation of the Posse Comitatus Act because he's sending the National Guard to do police work, basically. So violation of that. So it's like these people, they just don't care, bro. This is why I can't take a right winger serious sometimes, because they say that they're so for the Constitution and so for all these rights, but yet they turn a blind eye when one of theirs is violating the Constitution. Ain't it funny how that works? You know what I mean? But yeah, the Quasi Comitatus Act exactly is what prevents us from being a military state. And if you don't believe me, look all this stuff up. Look us up. Look this up. Know your rights, man. You know what I mean? Uh, but but yeah, it's violation. And this all started with George Bush, believe it or not. All of this, because George Bush is the one who enacted the George Bush is basically the one who made it cool to rip apart the Constitution. Let's be real, and I'm talking about the second George Bush, not the first one. You know what I mean? Because George Bush, because of 9/11, what's up, Dave? He's the one that began ripping apart the Constitution, and he's the one that began making stuff like the Patriot Act, warrantless wiretaps. Give going. He's the one that started the throwing habeas corpus out the window, basically the right to due process. He's the one that started locking people up in the Guantanamo without any kind of warrants or anything. Warrantless wiretapping, spying on people without a warrant. All that stuff started under Bush. Bush is the first one to really rip apart the Constitution. Unfortunately, Obama continued with it, and now George Bush is not George Bush. Donald Trump is going down the same route, and he seems like he's even getting worse. You know what I mean? But yeah, that all started under the Patriot Act, and all this is all Patriot Act. It's all like the new COINTELPRO, basically. You know what I mean? Now, as far as the riots or so-called riots or protests in LA, I'm all for protest. You know what I mean? I'm all for people going out there and voicing their opinion. Just like I was all for BLM out there voicing their opinion. I'm all for any group out there voicing their opinion, as long as they do it the right way. You know what I mean? You need movements to change things, you know. So I have no issue with that. I have no issue with Rasa out there protesting. You know what I mean? And letting their word be heard that we're not gonna let you come into our barrios and terrorize us. You know what I mean? Is he working for Russia? Possibly. Um, but um, I have no problem with that. What I do have a problem is like my thing is, if you're gonna protest against the police or ICE, protest against the police or ICE. Cool. That's what the whole point is. Or against the government. You know what I mean? But destroying your neighborhood, looting, burning shit, I mean, that just doesn't sit right with me. There's no point in that, man. And the problem with that is that you got to remember everything is focused on the lens. You know what I mean? And the media, that's what they're going to focus on, and it's going to take away from the bigger picture. From the real people doing the dirty work. They're going to just focus on a couple of pendejos breaking shit and burning shit, and man, I don't agree with that. Some people may disagree, but I don't agree with that. I think that's stupid, personally. Especially if you're destroying your own body or your own hood, your own turf. What the fuck is the point of that, man? A lot of us already come from fucked up neighborhoods anyway. You know what I mean? And so there's no point in that. And that's right. A lot of groups like Antifa and Black Bloc and some of the anarchist groups sometimes do it. And I don't know if they're out in LA. I have no clue. You know what I mean? Um, I don't know if they were out there doing doing damage out there. That I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't even know if there really is looting going on in LA. I heard something about it, but I don't want to make speculations because I don't know. If there has been looting out there and you know about it, leave it in the comments. But Dave is a pilgrim. Um, but they're handing out gas masks. Who is? But you know, this actually started in San Diego before before the LA riots, or so-called LA riots. About 2 weeks before the LA, what's happening in LA, the same thing happened in San Diego. ICE raided a restaurant, and then the whole neighborhood came out and blocked the ICE from doing what they had to do. And that's where I would say it started in San Diego, and it's working its way up to the Bay. Because if they come to the Bay with that shit, you already know it's gonna go down here too, bro. But who's the spokesperson for the Latinos? Well, that's the problem. We don't have a real spokesperson. I mean, there's a lot of people out there doing dirty work, but there is no real leader. Just like there really was no real leader for the black community either when BLM was happening. That's why it didn't really go anywhere. To the voice of the Rasa. But yeah, man. So like, you guys gotta understand your rights, bro. And just remember, I know these things sound funny, but like habeas corpus, quasi comitatus, those are real things, bro. Those are real laws in place to protect us, and they're being violated, and no one gives a fuck. You know what I mean? No one cares. That bothers me, to be honest with you. As an American citizen, this is my country. This is where I'm from. That bothers me. You know what I mean? And it just like it bothered me when George Bush Jr. did the same thing with the Patriot Act and all that stuff, starting fake wars. You know what I mean? And this is all a culmination of all that. This is all a continue. We're still feeling the effects of the George Bush administration. As crazy as that sounds, that is a reality. That is what's going on right now. Because Trump is using those doctrines to do what he's doing right now. You know what I mean? And nobody knows this. Nobody researches this stuff. Nobody even knows probably what habeas corpus is or right to due process. You know what I mean? And I'm not a big law guy, but I worked with a lot of community organizations, and I learned a thing or two. You know what I mean? It's just like you can observe the police doing their duty. You know what I mean? Um, I'm heading down a trail rock. You can observe the police doing their duty, and they can't do anything to you as long as you don't interfere with them doing their job. You can videotape them. You can watch them do what they do, bro. And it's not against the law. You know what I mean? It is what it is. But right now people are saying, oh, they're waving their Mexican flags, they're burning the American flag. I didn't see anything about burning American flags. The Mexican flag thing, I mean, I'm kind of like, I get where the Raza brings out the Mexican flags because in many ways, let's face it, it's saying screw you to the races because they're not going to see us as Americans anyway. They're going to see us as Mexican, even if we were born here, which is why people usually bring out the flag of their country. As far as like, yeah, I think some people should wave the American flag and make a statement like, look, this is our fucking flag too. And you can't tell us shit. If you don't like it, fuck you. That should be a message for sure. I don't disagree with that. With using the American flag, I don't use it. You know what I mean? Put the Mexican and the American flag together. Fuck it. Piss the racists off. That would piss the racists off even more. As far as burning the flag, I'm not a fan of burning the flag, but you have a right to burn the flag because it's protected free speech. Actually, a white man, a white racist, I think, a Nazi, was the one who sued the government because he burnt the American flag, and he sued the government and won. A white man, a racist. So educate someone about that one. Um, but the Mexican flag or any flag, it's freedom of speech. You could wave whatever flag you want to flag. You could wave the Nazi flag. You could wave the the Jewish flag. You could wave the Mexican flag. You could wave the Himalayan flag. You could wave whatever fucking flag you want. It's protected speech. Read the Constitution. If you don't believe me, read the Constitution. And if you don't like the Constitution, then I don't know what to tell you. And I'm not talking about to my followers. I'm talking about those who are crying. It's protected speech. Protesting is protected speech. Right to assembly. Read the Constitution. I don't know how many times I can tell you this. And I'm not talking to you guys. I'm talking about to the pendejos that are going to come on here crying. Read the Constitution. Look up habeas corpus. Look up Posse Comitatus Act. You know what I mean? Look that stuff up. Don't argue with me. Look it up. Then come talk to me. But that's, you know what I mean? There's not much more I could say. You know what I mean? I don't have a problem with the raza protesting. I don't have a problem with the raza running the ice out of the barrio. I don't have a problem with raza waking the fuck up. We need to wake up. You know what I mean? Maybe Donald Trump, the one good thing about him is that he's making raza wake up from their stupidity. You know what I mean? Especially the simp Latinos for Trump. You know what I mean? Now they're getting their reality check. You know? I mean, this pendejo's even talking about deporting citizens, like, which is unconstitutional and can't be done. I mean, it can be, but it's illegal. So, you know, and yeah, it's just crazy, man. You know, but I'm not gonna put all the blame on Trump like people want me to. We got to talk about the Democrats too, because the Democrats are fucking assholes too. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, if you're a Democrat, I hate to tell you this, but Democrats have deported more immigrants than George Bush, than the first Donald Trump administration, and even more than George Bush Sr. put together. Clinton, Obama, even Biden to some degree, deported more people than all of them. Actually, no, Joe Mama. Clinton deported the most people. Swear to God, look it up. You don't believe me. Obama did too. Obama was second. And the one thing I hate about some liberals, because I'm a former liberal myself, I guess I still am kind of a liberal to a degree, more a centrist liberal, is that what's up, Gooch? They cry about Donald Trump, but when the Democrats are doing it, they don't say nothing. They're silent. Oh, we don't want to say anything. When Obama was president, I criticized the fuck out of him. I criticized him because he was deporting people. I criticized him because he continued the Patriot Act. I criticized him because he continued the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. I criticized Obama. I didn't cover for Obama or simp for Obama when he was president. He was just as guilty as Bush, whether people like it or not. And if you don't believe me, go look it up. You know, the only thing Obama had was he had charisma. You got to give him that. But he was pretty messed up. Exactly, Gooch. That's what I'm talking about. Bill Clinton deported more people than even Donald Trump. But, you know, this is the thing. Let's just say when Donald Trump's presidency is over, let's say a Democrat comes into power, you know, the raza really needs to call out that Democrat and be like, look, if we voted for you, what the fuck are you going to do for our people? You know what I mean? Instead of like, oh, there's a Democrat. Let's be quiet now. No, hell no. And that's what pisses me off. Yeah, Clinton is the reason why MS-13 spread to Central America. That is true. That is true. Before Bill Clinton, there was no MS-13 in El Salvador. They was hitting sheets. Did they? I know there was a protest in Fruitvale, but I didn't go, bro. I was busy today. I was kind of my day off. I didn't feel like going to no protest. But that is retarded if they looted anything, bro. I am not, you know what I mean? I am not a, oh shit, what's up, wrestler? So I'm not a fan of looting or burning your own barrio, bro. That's so stupid, bro. But people protesting, I'm all for it. But again, like I'm saying, we can't act like um we can't act like it's just Trump and the Democrats don't play a part in this too. You know, and simping for the Democrats. That's the problem with a lot of Latinos, bro, and a lot of minorities. You know what I mean? You know, and it's just crazy. It's crazy what's going on, and you know, but at the same time, yes, we cannot let them terrorize our barrios. We just can't. We can't be the ones that we're gonna let get punked around. You know what I mean? And if you don't care about it or you don't know about it, read up on the Black Panthers, read up on the Brown Berets, read up on the Chicano movement, read up on the past community groups that stood up to the government in some very scary times, even more scarier than now. You know what I mean? Read up on Reyes Tijerina, you know. But yeah, I mean, our people have a history of revolting, you know, and LA has a very deep history too. It's not just Oakland. LA does have a big history with protesting, with riots, with the community standing up. You have the Zusu riots happen in LA, the Chicano moratorium happened in LA, the Watch riots happened in LA, the Brown Berets started in LA in East LA. The Black Panthers had a pretty deep chapter in LA. You know what I mean? Even though they started in Oakland, but they had a chapter in LA. The 1992 Rodney King riots happened in LA. A lot of big movements have happened in Los Angeles. So it's not just a city of gangbangers. There's a lot of, you know, stuff that has organized there for sure. Nah, the SLA was from the Bay Area. They went to LA though. But yeah, but it's just what's up, Dubag? Do Beezy the pimp. But you know, that's basically what I wanted to talk about today. Um, know your rights, man. And if you have family that's not here with the papeles, bro, take care of them. Let them know their rights. Educate them, man. If I could ask you guys to do something, if you have family that's undocumented, teach them of their rights. Teach them about some of the things I told you about today. Let them know. Because we need our people to know, man. That's the problem with us. We get caught up in so much bullshit, gangs in the streets and this, that we forget that we have a big legacy as well. And we have a strong history. And a strong history of rebellion going back to our own countries of where we originated from. You know what I mean? That, I don't know, Joe Mama. That's the thing. I don't know. You know what I mean? I've heard some rumors that some stores were getting looted. I'm not a fan of looting. And I'll tell you why I'm not a fan of looting. I'll tell you why. I've never really told you guys this story of something I seen with my own eyes. Many years ago, I went to a big protest in Oakland. And it was a big protest. Hella people were there. It was hella cool and hella peaceful. There was no violence, no looting, no nothing. It was dope. It was actually dope to see like a unity of people out there. Later on that day, that night, the protest was over. People went home. Cool. That same night, a group of people, I don't know who they were. I don't know if they were people from the protest. I don't know if they were uh, anarchists. I don't know if they were provocateurs, cops. I don't know who they were. But a group of people broke into a building in downtown Oakland and lit it on fire. So this whole day, there was this huge protest. And the only thing that the media focused on was that building that got broke into and burnt up. And that's how you destroy a movement. And that is why I'm not a fan of looting or burning shit. You know what I mean? Regardless of who does it, black, Rasa, white, whoever. Because it's not going to get your movement anywhere. It's just going to and hinder your movement and make it look bad. Even Martin Luther King was against it. He said it himself. Look it up if you don't believe me. Look up his speech where he said riots are the voice of the unheard. He says it in that speech. He says riots are the voice of the unheard. He understands where it's coming from, but it can also be damning to your movement. You know what I mean? He said it, not me. You know, and that is true. Yes, Doctor. I think Dr. King was a Republican. I mean, Republican, Democrat, they're all full of shit, bro. Weren't the Democrats like the creators of the KKK? By any means, but yeah, I witnessed that with my own eyes. I seen a peaceful protest get completely destroyed in the media because some pendejos went and burned up a building. With my own eyes, I seen that, and I was like, wow, just like that. What the hell? When the Rodney King riots were, I was in who got feel me because at the end of the day, the street protests are catapult to the real actual work, which is policy legislation. Exactly, and that's the thing. We need more people that are on our people's side. We need more Rasa representation as well. Rasa that represents us, not sellouts or not people that are, you know what I mean, not going to do any real work. And protests for sure, not the real work. The real work is getting people in office, getting legislations, getting laws passed. You know what I mean? That is true. I totally agree. And we need to wake up as a people and start doing that. You know, and all the Latinos for Trump were crying about it, crying about their families getting deported. Well, you voted for him. He's clearly said on my first day of office, I'm going to start deporting people. I'm going to take away birthright citizenship. I'm going to do all these pendejadas, and you still voted for the motherfucker, so you deserve it. You know, support the rulers and so on. King's famous calls it rising language and herd, truth understanding the violence can be symptoms of a society failure to address the legitimate group. Yeah, but he also said that he wasn't for a riot, but he understands. Basically, he was saying he understood where it coming from. Green light burning. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the flag burning. Did you know, Rasa? So the reason why flag burning is a freedom of speech is because of a racist from Texas like that, a racist Nazi or something like that. He burned a flag and they arrested him, and and he sued the government, and the government issued a thing saying that it was his freedom of speech to burn the flag. A white racist. So Raider Rich, you can be happy with that one. One of your favorite type of people is the reason why it's a First Amendment right to burn the flag. Universal Studios. Which king are you talking about, Raider Rich? But yeah, so you know, it's a crazy time, but Trump ain't the only one, unfortunately. You know, unfortunately, the Democrats have also been just as much of a pain in the ass. Trump is just more bold in what he says and just people are just making a bigger thing about it because he's saying he's gonna do and he's doing it. It's in the constitutional right to represent anything. Yeah, man. I always suggest people should go read the Constitution. Just glance at it. That's a lie, Rich. I heard you burned the 49er flag once. Everybody's gonna come after you from San Francisco. But yeah, man. So leave it in the comments. I'm pretty much done with that issue. I'm gonna talk about another. We're gonna get into some more funny conversation now, and Duvad and Chris Green are gonna love this one. But before I change the subject, put in the comments. What do you think of anything I said tonight? Any questions? Any words? How'd you like you know the uh, my little spiel? Let me know. Put it in the comments. Total flag burning. Shit, cross that. Freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of press, freedom of assembly, and a right to position in the government. Exactly, that's Fambo. You know, one of the reasons they hated the Black Panthers because the Black Panthers actually read the Constitution and said, "Wait a minute, we have these rights." They basically told white America, "We have these rights," and white America fucking hated them for that. That's the real reason they hated the Black Panthers. You were to have vendors out here, the ones that do sell food, they get their restaurants out of family owned. What about the crazy vodka in Vegas? I didn't hear about that. It was Gooch. But yeah, man. They used to legally carry weapons, so exactly. Well, they said we have a right to bear arms, so we're going to bear arms. And white America hated them for that at the time. Why? Is it illegal to street man where you're from? Would you smash nigga from Indicted TV? I wonder if Dave would smash nigga from Indicted TV. Or maybe Raider Rich. Yeah, why not? Yeah, I would. I've had them chunky like that before. Brutal arm, that's it. Earlier, youngsters broke into the sheets. So yeah, somebody else told me that. That's stupid. Was it Rasa youngsters or not? That's the big question. But yeah, I'm not for looting because that's for one that's stupid to loot your own barrio. I'm not a fan of that at all. I don't promote that. I don't talk about that. I think that's stupid. Yes, Jose said it. My friend invited me to go to that protest in Fruitvale earlier, but I was kind of tired. Like I've been really busy, bro. So I kind of I need a day off, bro. I kind of relaxed today. I just kind of had the day to myself today. Sometimes you just need that day where you just to yourself. You don't do anything. You don't go anywhere. You just chill. That's kind of how it was. Because they don't get permits. It was both, huh? I was invited to that Marvin the Martian and Rasa business. I was almost gonna go, but I was just like, I don't know. If they do another one, I might go. So what do you guys think? Like the Oakland followers, those are you who are from Oakland or the Bay. Do you think if ICE tries to do the same thing in Oakland or Richmond or any of these cities out here, like hood cities, do you think the same thing's gonna happen? What do you think? I think if they come to Oakland, it's gonna be all bad for them. But if they come to Oakland, they're gonna come prepared. The Bay and go live. Or if they go to San Jose, you think Rasa Sol, you're from San Jose. Do you think your people out there in San Jose are gonna do something if they come out there? I don't know. I'm not from San Jose, but I know in Oakland, people ain't gonna put up with that stuff. You know what I mean? I mean, San Jose is a Rasa city, but are they militant enough to go out there? But yeah, but anyway, let's change the subject. I want to talk about something funny. Oh yeah, you know damn well everyone. Oh yeah, another thing is it's not just Rasa they're deporting. They're deporting a lot of Asians. They're deporting people who have uh, uh like old people who have like what do you call that refugee status from the Vietnam War era. They're um, they're uh, deporting Filipinos. They're deporting Indians. They're deporting uh, Chinese, Cambodians, probably Samoans too. I'm sure, and Tongans. They're also deporting people to Haiti and African countries as well. So they're deporting everybody right now, bro, that they can. Once if it does get low, it will burn down like never unheard. It's gonna protest opportunities waiting to get dark. Yeah, I know, bro. Trust me, Marvin. I've been in protests before. I know it's the people that hang around afterwards that sometimes ain't even part of the protest, or they're agitators, or you never even know. Maybe some cops too. People forget a lot of undercover cops go out there and they provoke shit. Yeah, but I think if they come to cities like Richmond, Oakland, San Francisco, maybe Sacramento too, maybe Vallejo, those kind of towns, you never know. They had high school graduates. That's fucked up. Yeah, we were talking about that. Like, why are you gonna go to high school graduations and stupid shit like that? This is why people are rioting because they're doing stupid shit, and people don't like stupid shit. But anyway, let's talk about a funny one before I get off. I gotta get off anyway. But um, but I wanted to make this live tonight. I felt it was important. As a Chicano, as a Raza content creator, I felt I had to speak on this issue. You know what I mean? I just had to. I couldn't be silenced about this. Whether people like me or not, whether people unsubscribe to me because I'm not a Trump simp or a Democrat simp, I had to say my piece. And if you notice, I didn't just bash Trump. I took it all the way back to Clinton. I took it all the way back to Obama. I took it all the way back to George Bush's dumbass. You know what I mean? Started to hit up LA recently too. Who's CGNG? I'm sorry. Who is that, bro? True. They can't go against the government, but they could give them a hard time. Oh, okay. And whether you like it or not, Rich, you live in this country. People have a constitutional right to protest. So go read the Constitution if you don't like it, bro. Go read your own fucking constitution if you don't like people out there protesting. It says you have a freedom to assembly, bro. It's funny how you, the most American of everybody here, doesn't even know your own constitution. Actually, the point of the Constitution is to rise up from a tyrannical government. Isn't that the whole point of it? I'm for protest too. I'm not for rioting either. I'm for change. That's what I'm for. Easy, alien. But let's talk about another subject real quick that I wanted to talk to you about. Um, there's another funny controversy going on. I think Duvad and Chris Green are going to love this one. Our favorite FBA, foundational Black American, Lord Jamar from the Brand Nubian, you know what I mean? Who, hey, what's up, Timo? Man, you missed the whole live. But anyway, uh, don't take away the Polish dog. But anyway, Lord Jamar did this whole thing. Let's see, comma. He was on this whole thing that he went against Vlad TV because I guess Vlad TV supposedly criticized uh, he criticized Minister Farrakhan, who was the leader of the Nation of Islam, and I guess he had said something about Israel's the synagogue of Satan or something like that, and he wasn't necessarily talking bad about Jews as a whole. He was talking about the government of Israel or something like that, you know, and what they were doing to the Palestinians or whatever. And I guess Vlad, who's a Ukrainian Jew, I guess he claims that he's seen a video that was cut to pieces to make it look like Minister Farrakhan was talking about all Jews, but he was talking about the particular government of Israel. And you know, he said that that he disagreed with um with what Farrakhan had to say. So Lord Jamar, he made this thing that he disagrees with what what Vlad is saying, and that he's making the Minister Farrakhan look bad. He's making assumptions about him, and that he's racist, and that everybody should stop. Every black person should stop going on his show. And then he had this other dude that was cool with this African dude. His name is Godfrey. Um, he's a comedian. He's like very pro black comedian. Um, he had him stop going on the show, and I guess Godfrey and Lord Jamar, they had like a podcast together, and they were on this whole thing about this anti-Vlad thing for a few years actually. And then Lord Jamar somehow became a dumbass flat Earth conspiracy guy, and and Godfrey, I guess, set up some kind of debate with a scientist and Lord Jamar over flat Earth, and the scientist just destroyed Lord Jamar's arguments and made him look hella retarded and stupid. And yeah, Godfrey is FBA, but he's not even a foundational Black American. He's a Nigerian. But anyway, um, uh, uh, so Lord Jamar was made to look stupid as hell in that debate. He lost that debate. He looked horrible. And when he couldn't win the argument, he started going the bully route of making threats and cussing people out. And then he tried to say that Godfrey drugged them or something, or gave him some bad drugs, and that he was like hallucinating and he couldn't win the argument. And he just started making this stupid stuff up, and he went on this whole anti um, Godfrey thing. So then I guess him and Godfrey broke up. I guess they were lovers or whatever. Nah, but they broke up, and they weren't really lovers. I'm just being an idiot. But uh, and then Godfrey started talking hella mess about God. I mean, Lord Jamar started talking hella mess about um uh about Godfrey, and um basically there was this big breakup between Godfrey and Lord Jamar, but there was still this thing. Uh, there was still this thing about like hating like Vlad. And they're not gonna go on his show because he made remarks about Farrakhan. So now fast forward, now that Godfrey and Lord Jamar have broken up, I guess Lord Jamar and Vlad kissed and made up, and Lord Jamar was Mr. 5% or FBA, super black man. I'm against the white devil, Vlad. Now he's on Vlad's show kissing his ass. You know what I mean? And he's just getting backlash for it right now. He's basically being looked to. People are calling him a sellout. People are just making videos about him, going in on him, saying he sold out. And he talked all this shit about Vlad, and now he's on Vlad's show again, and he broke up with 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 Godfrey, and now he kissed and made up with Vlad. It's God, it's just funny, bro. But let's face it, Lord Jamar, I don't even know who he is, to be honest with you. I do remember the group Brand Nubian. Um, but I don't remember the members of Brand Nubian, but I do remember that rap group. And let's face it, Vlad is the reason why Lord Jamar became known, because Lord Jamar, uh, Vlad gave Lord Jamar a platform, and that's how a lot of people knew who he was. And you know, he broke up and got into this fight with Vlad, and now he sold out to Vlad again. So yeah, goes to show you can't take any of these fools seriously. They talk a good one, but at the end of the day, they go against their own moral code. You feel me? And but yeah, it's it's funny, you know what I mean? It's just funny these weirdos, man, on here. Best underground hip hop group never really made it. Grand Puba was from Grand Nubian. Oh yeah, I remember Grand Puba. Yeah, and then remember Lord Jamar was talking hella shit about Eminem. That Eminem was a guest in hip hop and blah blah blah. But Eminem is a goat. Everybody knows about Eminem. Who knows about Lord Jamar really? Also, he said that Eminem, nobody in the hood listens to Eminem, and it's like, who in the hood really listens to Lord Jamar? I've always said Lord Jamar is mad because he can't even touch Eminem, and that hurts him. And I don't mean that in a gay way. I mean he can't even touch him in the fame department. Yeah, I remember all those rap groups, Rasa. I remember Brand Nubian, the Fushnikins, the Lords of the Underground. Um, the Wu Tang came out of that era. A lot of those groups. Exactly, Chris Grima. But yeah, but right now, Lord Jamar is getting a lot of backlash for going back on Vlad's show. But it's funny because Lord Jamar, he's a hypocrite. You know what I mean? Um, Lord Jamar used to say that the Puerto Ricans were part of the creation of hip hop. He used to. He also used to say things like um, like the Caribbean people also contribute to hip hop. And then he jumped on this FBA bandwagon, and then he's all like, "Screw the Caribbean people and screw Puerto Ricans and all this nonsense." And he's Caribbean himself. You know what I mean? He's like part Guyanese or something like that from Guyana, which is in South America, near Colombia, Venezuela. Actually, you don't know where that country is. So he has a lot of nerve talking, and this is what a lot of people don't understand. In New York, a lot of the black people are not necessarily African Americans. This is true. This is what people don't understand outside of New York. In New York, a lot of black people are from the Caribbean. They're from Latin America, from Puerto Rico, from Dominican Republic, from Cuba, from Colombia, from Venezuela. So, and they're also from like Jamaica and Trinidad and Barbados. So you have a lot of Caribbean influence in New York, whether people like it or not. What's that? Oh, thanks, Raider Rich. Thanks, Gooch. Um, so this is the one thing that people don't seem to understand. That in New York, everybody grew up together. You know what I mean? And that's just how it is. That's the culture. It's kind of like when people say in Oakland, you know, blacks and Latinos and Asians are usually cool with each other because we all grew up together. Well, you could say the same thing for New York. In New York, black Caribbeans and Latinos and black Latinos and African Americans all grew up together. Oh yeah, FBA, they're anti Rasa, they're anti Caribbean, they're anti freaking African. They're weirdos. Gooch is the coolest redneck I know. Yeah, FBA is a hate cult. Let's just put it like that. That's all it is. But yeah, I'm about to tap out in a minute. Well, leave it in the comments or anything we talked about today. You know what I mean? Uh, if you guys gonna see the beginning of my live, go back and watch it. Um, well, we talked about like protests going on in LA. We talked about um, some of your rights, some of the things that have been violated, the Constitution, habeas corpus, posse comitatus, um, a lot of different things. You know what I mean? Go back and watch it. I gave some pretty good pointers. We talked a little bit about history, about different presidents and how many presidents deported who. You know what I mean? FBA is basically a group that was started by a dude named Tariq Nasheed. And FBA came from another organization called ADOS, American Descendants of Slavery. And I think there was some kind of breakup, and Tariq Nasheed created that FBA thing. Yeah, I keep hearing about this Red Supreme idiot. I heard he's a racist. I don't really know who he is. I don't watch his channel, so I don't know. Well, yeah, I mean, if he's a racist, that's the kind of people he's gonna attract. But yeah, man. But I'm about to tap out. Go back and watch anything I said. Press the like, subscribe, let people know about my videos. And hopefully you guys like this live with Jay. This was an important one. I felt I had to do it as a Chicano Raza content creator. I had to do this one for sure. And I'm not one that cries about immigrant issues all the time, but I felt I had to do this one and say what I had to say, especially being someone who grew up in the movimiento, someone who was involved in politics, and someone who used to be a protester and an activist. I had to do this. You feel me? So go back, if you missed it, go back and watch anything I had to say and let people know about it. But me hate it. You never been on the line. They started getting me prison politics, North House down. Yes. Yeah, that's prison politics, though. Thanks, Chris. Yeah, this live, I had to do it, bro. I just had to do it. You know what I mean? There was no way I wasn't gonna do this live for sure. But anyway, I'm gonna tap out. You guys be safe. Chris Green, my Timo, Gooch, Fambo, Dubad, Shortcuts, Joe Mama, Marvin the Martian, Rasa Business, and everybody else who was on here. Fambo out there in Texas from the town. But I'll talk to you guys later. You guys be safe. Know your rights, bro. Learn about some of the things I talked about today. All right, y'all. Late.